Hello. Hi.
Welcome to another scintillating episode of CCnDoc Talk. And today we're going to do a topic. Let's do the bewilderment zone.
Okay.
That's a really cool one.
It is. By the way, I'm CC.
I'm Doc. And by the way, that came from
the
bewilderment zone, otherwise known as the neutral zone or the unknown or
change management. I don't think bewilderment and neutral go together at all, personally.
Well, different theorists along the way have called it different things. All right. It stems from anything that happens in your life where you enter into a little bit of a stage of the unknown. So if there's, let's say, a change in jobs, or you start a new job, and you're not at the new normal yet, but you're in that state of bewilderment zone. You're figuring it out. You have a death in the family, or a death of a spouse or a loved one, which really rocks your world. Well, you're not going to get to a new beginning right away. So anytime you go from an ending to a new beginning, and you're not going to get that new beginning right away, that zone is called the bewilderment zone.
So the current situation that we're all in, having a new administration, is none of that.
Yeah, there's
none of that, right?
There's a whole ending. So one of the reasons we are bringing up this topic right now, I will say, is so I'm going to say, my aunt, we lost my uncle suddenly just a few months back. And I was able to see her recently, and sitting around the table with, my aunt and then my cousins, and to talk about it's okay to be in the bewilderment zone. Allow yourself to be in the bewilderment zone. We don't know how to be there. Our brain likes predictability. Our brain likes routine. And when all of a sudden all of that is like poof, gone, your brain goes, huh? What? And when we want to, as quickly as possible, create routine, create predictability, create security, right? Yeah. And so we don't allow just that bewilderment zone to happen. And so to embrace that. And sometimes it's scary, but as humans, we don't like the bewilderment zone. We like some predictability. We like some form of security. So,
and in most cases, I think, people, unless they suffer from, severe depression or something that very legitimately gets in the way of that, I think people, for the most part, have a level of resilience where they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like they know it might be tough to get there, or they see glimpses of light at the end of the tunnel. But like in our current situation,
one of the reasons we did this topic right now is because we're in the bewilderment zone.
100%.
Whether we like it or not, we were tossed into it. Right. And we have
with the current political situation,
the whole political climate and the unknowns of things happening, right? So all of a sudden now we're in this bewilderment zone. We don't know what the new beginning will be. We don't know the impact of what these things will to all of us. And so we're all of a sudden in this little bewilderment zone going, what the hell?
Right.
I mean, how do we even dance? How do we, you can't even put together a plan of action because it's so unknown.
There's so many unknowns, right? And so many things are out of our control.
Right.
Like we have no control.
And sitting and waiting sitting and waiting also keeps you in the bewilderment zone.
And like in the case of your aunt with grief, you can join a support group. You can, there are people who can help you. But in our case right now, one of the things that we're realizing is, we're, as I think most people are, relying on somebody else somewhere else at a level above us to be doing something about all these things and making us feel more secure. And that's not happening.
Well,
so that we don't have that security of feeling like, we're being taken care of, or somebody's looking out for our interests, or, so then it literally feels like we are on our own on an island.
Well, you're on your own, and your fight, flight, and freeze have kicked in because, we don't know whether to fight, flight, or freeze right now. Right. And
that's a whole other podcast.
That's a different podcast. That's another good topic, right? And so I forget what I was going to say earlier. It was really brilliant. I think one of the reasons, we're tossed into this, if you're not in favor of some of the changes happening right now out there, then right now it is a state of bewilderment. It's a state of the unknown.
Well, or if you're in a marginalized group where you feel like you're being targeted in some
so all of a sudden your security has been
gone, obliterated.
Right. And I was going to, the stages of grief are, denial, anger, then bargaining and acceptance. There's some others along the way, but that was the original one years ago.
Right.
And so, again, if you're not in favor of what's happening right now, there was definitely denial.
We're grieving.
We're grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a grieving
Yeah,
process.
we're grieving.
There's denial. There's huge anger that's been happening. And and then now we try to get a little bit of that bargaining in. Well, maybe it won't be so bad, or maybe if we don't do the tariffs here and we just do the tariffs here, it won't be so bad. Or so now we're into this kind of bargaining. But we
as
are,
people are trying
as
to
people
are trying to find
we're trying to grasp
some equilibrium in the
of getting
in the
to
crazy.
of getting to the beginning.
Almost like we're making shit up to make ourselves feel better about
Right.
what's happening.
Right. And eventually, how do we get to acceptance? Well, we'll see what the fallout is
Right.
to be able to get to acceptance.
Well, and I really think that, and sometimes this goes hand in hand with anger, but I think there's another stage in this particular grief process for a lot of us, which is fear. I think there's a tremendous amount of fear in the population, and I think there's a lot of underlying fear. And I think some days it's even hard to decide, am I angry or am I just really fearful?
Well, I think
for my future.
When you're looking at emotions, anger and fear go hand in hand.
They do.
One is the emotion. I mean, one is a feeling and one's an emotion.
Right.
But they're hand in hand, right? So anger generates fear. And so,
but I think fear can also generate anger.
And fear can generate anger. So, that whole thing.
And sometimes you're just scared shitless and there's no anger about it. You just don't know where to go.
No matter what it is,
it's the freeze.
Right. But no matter which one it is, it triggers your fight, flight, or freeze, right? So all of a sudden your body gets constricted. It doesn't breathe as easily. Physiological symptoms and disease sets in when you're in a prolonged state of that. Right. And so again, learning how to be able to relax and and whatever the means are, but allowing the bewilderment zone to happen, but then also finding ways to not stay in that constricted state.
So that's what I was going to ask you is, what is your advice or what is your experience in how to navigate the bewilderment zone? Obviously the topic of what's happening today in the world is huge to try to tackle, but maybe looking at it just from a step-by-step perspective, how do you see escaping the bewilderment zone, getting some control?
Yeah, and unfortunately right now when so many things are out of your control, you can't escape the bewilderment zone. But what you can do is embrace the fact that we're in it. We're in this grieving process, but then also how do you find balance within your own world? And even if it's that bargaining piece, right? Because, if I do this, I can do that or whatever, or start to have a plan or whatever it is, just be aware. But the biggest thing I'm going to say is gratitude. If you can get a state of gratitude, I'm still here. I have a roof over my head.
Even if it's pathetic,
whatever. Grasp it as like, hey, I woke up today. I'm breathing. Whatever. Just find anything to have that sense of gratitude because it does relax the body just a little bit.
That's what we're reading a book right now called Mind Over Medicine. It's the revised edition by Lissa Rankin, and she was saying that the opposite of fear isn't joy. It's gratitude. I think I said that right. I'm not positive, but and I think you're right about that. I decided that I'm going to start a new practice every morning, which I'm big on affirmations, but I think I'm going to get up every morning and I'm going to start speaking or writing down like 10 affirmations a day. But in those, I have to have some release affirmations. Like I release the need to feel anxiety today. I release the need
for control of this. I release the need for
which means I'm turning it over to a higher power or whatever.
I release the need for anger right now.
Adding a few gratitudes at the bottom of that as well. So trying to kind of not just do the gratitude stuff because some of it truly is grasping at straws some days, but then the affirmations help to sort of solidify that. Now,
you too can have colorful stickers all over your mirrors
because
we do have them.
Yeah,
with the release gratitude or the release affirmations and the positive, the intake affirmations. Yes.
Yeah, and Lissa Rankin would actually say that her belief is that the affirmations aren't as effective unless you have dealt with your trauma. Your life's traumas as well. And sometimes it could be just the trauma of everyday living. And that actually came from Terry Cole, a book called Too Much. But But the trauma piece is big. Like anybody who was bullied as a kid, raise your hand. Is having a traumatic stress, is having
Right.
they're being triggered right now.
Yep.
It's a traumatic stress response right
Yep.
now
Yep.
with the current situation and the current leadership.
Parasympathetic nerve has been triggered, and
yeah.
vagus nerve has been triggered,
And so
and it's affecting the bodies.
yeah. And so as much as we may think that we have dealt with our traumas through therapy or somatic therapy or yoga or whatever, it's amazing how all of a sudden all that goes poof, comes
Yep.
rushing right back at you without recognizing it. So it's important to sit in meditation and really be with yourself right now. I think to feel like to first of all understand why you're being triggered, how you're being triggered, why you're being triggered.
Recognize the emotions.
Absolutely.
What needs to be soothed
Acknowledge
here.
the emotions. Yeah. Self-soothing is a big part of that.
It's like, oh, thank you for showing up right now. What message do you have for me? Okay, thank you. You can go now.
So is the bewilderment zone really just about, or exiting the bewilderment zone really just about ultimately regaining some sense of control over your destiny?
Yeah. Well, by the way, the bewilderment zone, it came from William Bridges, and it's the model for change.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's an ending, and then there's this bewilderment zone. Well, some people in their bewilderment zone, it kind of looks like it's just more of a nice flat horizon, and then they just tiptoe through it and go, "Hey, I'm now over here."
Through the tulips with me. Sorry.
So you get across there, you get across, and it's like, hey, that wasn't so bad, right? Even some people on how they go through grief, the loss of a pet or a loss of an animal. I mean, and other people, they get to that ending, and then they hit this canyon or a cauldron. I mean, they just go
the deep,
way
deep
down,
well.
the deep, deep well. I mean, it's the size. I mean, to me, when I hit mine once, going through a divorce, it was a Grand Canyon, and then you got to crawl out. You have to crawl all the way out, and then be able to get to the new beginning. But when you do that, if you want to relate to people, they need to know that they're on that same journey through the canyon with you, as opposed to the one who tiptoed through the tulips of life, because they're not relating to the same.
Because then you look at them and you go, "Life's so easy for you.
Yeah,
how nice for you."
Right. And those are the ones that are looking at you, going, "Hey, life, what's wrong?" Right? And no, you're not on the same path through this bewilderment zone. Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just knowing that you're not alone, this is natural. We don't like being in that place of the unknown where it's unpredictable or unsafe. That creates fear and anxiety. And yet you do have control over getting control of at least some of the emotions and the impact that it's having to the inside. And you can't just stop the bewilderment zone. The grieving process will happen no matter what. And so just allow yourself to go through it. Find the joy, find gratitude, appreciations, affirmations. Have I said enough?
You have. And thank you. And it's not, I don't think that it's the idea that, again, that Pollyanna perspective that everything's going to be fine. Everything's just going to turn out okay. That's not I mean, it's not this unrealistic, bad shit could still happen.
Yes.
But what can you control, and how do you, because ultimately the bottom line for me anyway right now is keeping myself healthy, so that I can function through the crisis, right? And not have some detrimental.
And talking about it, being able to find people that understand the journey that you're on.
Find your people.
Find your people.
Find your people.
Yep. And on that note, thank you.
Thank you. That was a good one.
That was a fun topic.
Thanks. And so if you're in the bewilderment zone, start crawling your way out of there.
Or just get control. I mean, that journey through the canyon, it's long.
Focus on what you can control and focus on your own.
I'll end with saying, when I did my mental journey I actually have hiked the Grand Canyon more than once. If you remember it as just arduous and steep and hot, you did it wrong. So we're all going to get through this. And you just have to remember that this journey is not just arduous, steep, and hot, but to stop and take a look around and see the blue sky, see the clouds, see the raindrops, whatever it is. Stop and smell the roses and realize there's more to this journey than just what you think is steep and hot.
Right now at this moment, most of us are still okay.
Yes.
And for those that aren't, we are definitely, we're with you. You're in our minds and our hearts.